And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome to my celebration and spotlight of this really cool little slasher called Founders Day. Which is interesting, right after Thanksgiving. But this is Founders Day. Now, Founders Day, like Thanksgiving, was released in 2023. It was directed by Erik Bloomquist, and it was written by Erik and Carson Bloomquist. It stars Naomi Grace as Allison, and Devin Druid and William Russ. Now, this was a very surprising movie to me, and it was not what I expected, which is a good thing. I just sat down for a, typical Pretty People in Peril slasher, and it is not that at all. And I mean, it has all of that, but it's a lot more than that. And I was very, very surprised and interested. It's a very interesting movie, sort of, especially because of the genres that it seems to mix together. So, in this movie, we're in this small New England town. I think it's New England, or the Midwest, or something like that. We're in a small town, and we are introduced to Harold Faulkner. He is arguing with someone on the front porch. It turns out to be his daughter Melissa, and she is dating a girl named Allison. So she ends up he wasn't mad about that. They weren't arguing about that. He was arguing about the way she was dressed, because he's running for mayor. So there is a really heated mayoral race between him and Claire, who is the current mayor, and so everything seems to be about his campaign. So meanwhile, Melissa's dealing with her own issues because Allison is fixing to leave and go away to college, and she wants her to at least stay for the summer. They end up going out to this bridge where, they are talking and all romantic and mushy, and she's sort of begging her, to stay at least for a little bit longer, and because, why don't you come with me? And no, she's stuck in this town with her dad and his political career. And then all of a sudden these blazing headlights, shine on them, and she kind of freaks out and goes and starts cussing at this obvious really big truck. And this guy jumps out. This founder. He wears this really creepy founder's mask with the white wig like George Washington wore, And he jumps out and he grabs her. Now, during the time that her and Allison were talking, she had gotten a lock. It's one of those bridges where you put the locks or the keys on, and she had locked her belt loop to the side of the bridge with the little love lock, the padlock with their names on it. And so she really couldn't move. She was locked to the thing. And this thing jumped out. This individual jumped out and was beat her to death with a gavel, like a judge uses. And it was an unusual weapon. And beat her to death and threw her over the bridge into the river. Now, Allison did manage to bust loose, because I'd have come out my pants if necessary, you know what I'm saying? But she manages to get out and get back to town where all this political arguing is going on. There's a mob outside of town hall and stuff. And she screams at them that Melissa's been killed, and this end starts the story, So, of course, Harold and his wife, who's her stepmother, and her brother, Adam, are extremely upset. They're upset, but it's also kind of rude because he's still focusing on his campaign with his daughters dead and missing. Her body was thrown into the river, and so the cops are trying to find it. They're trying to locate it somewhere downstream. So that all happens. This mayoral race. The characters in this movie are really, really interesting. So Brett, there's this couple. They're assholes. A girl named Brittany, and her boyfriend Tyler play this horrible joke on Allison at school. Mr. Jackson, the teacher that everybody loves, he comes out and screams at them that they're on detention, that they have to come to detention on Saturday or they'll be suspended. Saturday is the big festival that they're going to have. Now, in the meantime, you have the mayor, Claire, going. It's really a lot like Thanksgiving in that one of the big caveats is how can you be having this tricentennial festival and going on with my daughter missing? So it all seemed inappropriate. She's having the festival on Saturday even though his daughter is missing, and the parade and stuff like that. So there's a lot of conflict between these two mayoral candidates because of that. And Adam, he's really cool. I really liked him, but he obviously really was having mental trouble with all of this. And like I said, Brett and Tyler, they're an asshole couple, and they play the joke on Allison. At the bridge, the cops, and Deputy Miller, he's a big character in this movie. I like him. He's pretty cool. They're still looking for Melanie's body in the river. We see Adam visiting Allison because they're really close friends. And he ends up even staying that night at her house as a friend. Well, she's gay, so of course he was staying as a friend. And they talk a lot of deep conversation about the past and everything, and that's what I'm going to talk about this movie, different than normal slashers. So he's obviously very upset, and she comforts him. Now, he's got an ex named Lily who works at the same theater that he did in town. And she's calling him saying, I'm sorry about your sister and, come down. And so they're kind of not getting back together, but kind of sort of exploring the possibility. And, so her current dude, though, Rob, is very, very angry about the way she just says that she's being nice to him and being friendly with him because she still loves him as a friend. But he, of course, don't believe that. So you got this interpersonal drama going on. So, yeah, Tyler and Brett, they do it again. But this time, yeah, like I said, they were at the theater. So he had went to the theater, and Lily, there was a confrontation between Rob and Lily and him. He ends up leaving, and Rob ends up leaving, and she's there alone closing up, and that damn Brett and Tyler, they scare the shit out of her and joke her again. And but this time it didn't turn out too well for him because she maced Tyler in the face, which was pretty funny. And Adam stays again at Allison and tells her how good she was for Melanie and how much he misses her and all of this kind of stuff. And after he goes to sleep, her and her dad get really spooked by something going on outside. And that's actually a really funny scene because her dad gets so spooked. They think somebody's broken in on them. Actually, it was just somebody busting down their mailbox, which seems to be a habit in this town. But when her and him run out into the yard trying to catch whoever was making all this noise, he's got a spatula in his hand. And he ran through the kitchen and he grabbed a spatula, a fucking plastic one at that. So when she looks down at it and he looks down at it and realized that he got a spatula, I guess, instead of a knife or something, he was just like, back up, and that was a really funny scene. And there's a lot of that in this movie. The dialogue is very, very interesting in this movie, especially there's this police lady, Commissioner Rogers, I think her name is. Almost every damn word that comes out of her whole behavior and the way that she acts in this movie is just hilarious. And every little thing that comes out of her mouth had me laughing. This isn't a comedy horror, but yet it is. I don't know. I'll tell about that kind of stuff in this movie. So, like I said, Lily had been scared by Tyler, and they all run out. He's screaming, he can't see, he's maced. They leave after laughing at her, and she's left there alone when the founder shows up, and he puts this ice pick thing right through her forehead, and cuts her throat. And no, he just cuts her throat. And that was a pretty gross scene. Now, up until this point, you had been wondering when's the really serious action going to start, and that's when it started. This isn't a short movie. It's an hour and 46 minutes, and there's a reason for that that I'll talk about at the end. But, so, Lily's dead, but nobody knows it, right? The next day is that festival. So you have Tyler and Britt at the high school on detention, and then the teacher, he sets them, tells them the assignment he wants them to do, and then he leaves, and we see the festival going on. Now, Rob is working at the theater, right? So he is putting something in the dumpster in the skip. And that's when he finds Lily's body. So he goes running to that festival. In the middle of the mayor, Claire, giving a speech. Lily is her daughter. And, tells the sheriff, the deputy, who then has to tell her aide that she needs to shut up because there's something that, So it's we need to stop this. There's something really right around the corner here. Is her dead daughter in a skip. So she has to go and identify it after they stop her speech, and she is screaming so loud when she looks into that skip. And as an example of what I was telling you about Commissioner Rogers, that woman, she is witnessing this, and then she turns to the deputy, and the mom is screaming hysterically, and she's like, well, I guess we can call that a valid ID. So it was really inappropriate, smart-ass stuff like that. This woman is looking at her dead daughter's mutilated body in a skip, and her answer is, oh, well, I guess we can consider that a positive ID. And you can't help but laugh. And I found myself doing that a lot in this movie because you're that is so rude, but it still made me bust out laughing. And I felt bad for laughing because it was such an inappropriate thing, but it was really funny. There's a lot of that in this movie, which is very interesting, So, she's dead. Now, at the same time that this is all being discovered by Lily, Britt and Tyler in the, because he's gone now, and that was also a funny line because he said something like, when he walked by him and was like, I want 1,000 words of whatever. And then he walked out there and shut the door, and Tyler was like, fucking walking corpse. And that was funny. And then all of a sudden, they look at each other after he shuts the door and leaves. They look at each other and it's like, you know what? Let's have sex on his desk. And she's like, okay. And so they get up and they start doing that. And Tyler is like ridiculous because while he's like taking off his clothes and everything, he's like going, yeah, that's it. I'm the apex predator. I'm the alpha here. And you're like, oh. And then all of a sudden the founder appears and he just bashes that boy's skull in. And you kind of like, you're not too upset about it because he was that much of an asshole, but and she manages to get out. she's running down the hallway in her bra, right? And so everything is like bouncing like this, and she's trying to hold it while she screams, I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, it was just a joke. Like she thinks that's Mr. Jackson was like killing them for the joke they said about him when he walked out being a fucking walking corpse. So it was funny. So Rob had taken off running, right, when he found Lily's body, because the sheriff and all was, Miller was like, you were the last one to see her. You need to come to the station with me. He's like, you're not blaming me for this shit. So he's running. So like everybody, all law enforcement are like looking for him, and he's like hiding in the woods and shit because he don't want to be blamed for this. And the truth is, I didn't think that he had anything to do with it. Well, first of all, I know this founder person is doing it, but what I'm saying is I didn't think for a second that this asshole Rob, because he was kind of a little mouthy asshole too. I think most of them in this movie are mouthy assholes, but I didn't get any feeling that he was involved. So they're looking for him. Everybody is freaked out because now the bodies have really started piling up, right? Tyler and Britt are dead. Lily has been killed. I mean, very important kids in this family, teens in this family are all being slaughtered. And who bleeds out? Oh, okay. So Allison forgot something back at the school because like her and her dad are going to go home right after Lily's body had been found. But she's like, she had forgotten something in her locker at school. So they stop back by the school and they go in there. And you have to remember, this isn't even halfway through the movie. So they go back in there and she walks down the hall and she turns into that class because she hears noise. She turns into that class where we knew that Britt and Tyler was, where Tyler had gotten bashed. And the founder had gotten Brittany too in the gym. She was hiding underneath like the bleachers. You know how the bleachers come out and there's, So she's hiding underneath the bleachers and she thought she had gotten away from him, but he just like appeared out of nowhere and he put this big ice pick like thing right through her forehead. That was a really good kill. That was a really good kill. But anyway, so Alice like looks into this classroom and there's Adam, Melissa's brother, yeah? And he's at the chalkboard and he's like writing one of these little rhymes. Well, one of these little rhymes had been found at every single murder, including Melissa's on the bridge. It's just like a one-liner, like a poet, like a little tiny one-line poem or 2 lines, And so here he is standing over Tyler's bashed up body, writing it. And the first thing that I did, I mean, literally I did this. I grabbed the remote and I'm like, because he's sitting there, he's wearing the robe. There's the mask and the wig laying there and the gavel and everything. And I'm like, did I just lose 45 minutes? That's literally what I thought to myself. I'm like, did I just lose 45 minutes? I haven't been watching this movie that long. Because they're presenting him as the killer right there, right? And so she sees him, and I grabbed the remote, and I like paused the movie and hit status, and it was like not even halfway through the movie, and I'm like, well, there's got to be a lot more shit coming down because they just revealed who the killer was, and something's got to be up with this. And so I started the movie again, and he sees her, and he comes after her, and he's screaming like, I can explain. And she runs out to where her dad is, and he doesn't have any weapons or anything. It's not like he carries a gun or anything. And Adam comes like right out behind her, and he's like got this gavel in one hand and like a butcher knife or something in the other. And he like really seems to try to bash her, and all her dad can grab is like the pole. Remember, somebody had knocked down their mailbox, so he had thrown the broken pole, which is like a 2x4 that is like all broken, and he grabbed it out of the truck and he ran him through with that. And so he's like coughing up blood. It's like really gory. He's like coughing up blood, and a big giant hole and this big giant wood sticking out of him, and post is sticking out of him, and he bleeds out and dies right there trying to say something, but you can't really understand what he's saying. And I was really, really interested. I was already invested, but now I'm like, something else has got to be going on. This movie isn't even halfway over, and they have not only revealed but have killed the killer, right? And so it didn't make any sense to me. So we continue on. She ends up like having to go to the police station with her dad. They're kind of questioned. Then her dad has to go back in to talk, because Miller wants to talk to him privately. So all of a sudden, that Rob guy, he ends up like jumping in the car with Allison, which scares the hell out of her. And he's like, please, I didn't do any of this. I need to talk with you. I need to know what happened that night. And she ends up like calming down, and they end up like taking off. And Miller and the father, they end up like driving after them, trying to catch them, and they lose them, and they go back to the bridge where Allison once again, lays out exactly what occurred during that first attack that night. And all of a sudden, that same it looked like the exact same truck is blaring headlights at both of them now. It was almost like a repeat of what had happened. And she's freaked out, right? Because she just went through this once at the beginning of the movie. And instead, though, it's Miller. So it was Miller and supposedly her dad, that was chasing after her. So he comes up, but what was weird, and I noticed that too, was that he had a big black eye. But he didn't have that black eye a while ago when we saw them. That was like fresh meat. You know what I'm saying? And just about the time that I noticed it, she noticed it, and she was like, what happened to your eye? And he had already like freaked out and accused Rob and had like handcuffed him to the side of the bridge. And she's like, oh, your dad attacked me. And she's like, that's fucking bullshit. And he's, where is he? Well, he's at the jail, and he wants to talk to you. You've got to come with me. And she's like, I ain't going with you no damn where. And Rob is like going, don't believe him. Something is wrong. Something's going on. And he turns around and starts like going to take Rob to jail. And they end up fighting and tussling, and he ends up getting shot like right below the chest, and he falls down and bleeds out. Now Allison is so freaked out that, because Robin's like, get the keys off of him and let me go. She's so freaked out. She's like, no, I'm not. I need to think. Shit's going on and I need to think. So she left him like chained up to the bridge and like figure your own shit out, but I gotta go find my dad. You know what I mean? So she goes back to her house and it's all like really spooky because her house is like all dressed up. There's like one of those sayings, roses are red, violets are blue. Is the saying that's on her door, and she goes in there and like rose petals are everywhere going up the stairs. So she like follows this trail, scared the lights won't come on and all of this kind of stuff. She finally gets to she got it like, was it the bathroom? Why was there a tub in the bathroom, in the bedroom? Well, anyway, she got to the tub and it was like full of roses and tea lights, and it was like somebody had to take a lot of time to do all this shit, right? And then she got to one and it was this big placard that said, look under the bed. So she turned around and she got down there and looked under the bed, and there was the founder, right? And I thought it was Adam, but people have been killed since then. Like the commissioner, she got killed. The founder had like killed both candidates for mayor. Claire, I mean, I skipped all of that, but that was like a horrific murder scene when Claire and Harold were like fighting in her office about, they basically blamed each other. You killed all these kids for your campaign, and she blamed him for the same thing, and then the founder showed up and brutally slaughtered them. I mean, it was like a really intense kill scene. So she sees the founder, and the first thing she does is she like stabs, right? And then it's like no, and she like grabs and pulls off the mask, and it's her dad, and he's like taped up. So he was like set up and put under the bed wearing that stuff. And that's when she hears, I can't remember what she said, but she said something to her and it made her stop and turn around and look. And there was the founder. And the founder took the mask off, and it's fucking Melissa. And I'm like, I kind of suspected that was a possibility, but I wasn't nowhere near sure. I just knew that was a possibility because, this murder victim's body has not been found yet. Granted, it was dumped into a fast-moving river, but so I was not like, I don't know, I was maybe 45% surprised, not because I knew it was a possibility. But that's when things got really weird because she's now got Allison tied up to the bed, and she starts telling everything. And you start seeing in flashbacks all of this stuff that happened. And, yes, she was the killer. She had been killing them all. And they even showed you through the flashbacks, they showed the scene at the bridge at the beginning of the movie when her and Allison were attacked. And that's when you saw that it was Adam, her brother, that was helping her. So now you're up to 2. So it was Melissa and her brother. And her brother is basically the set designer. She's done all the killing. She's the real psycho, which is why he had all this. You could tell he was like mentally upset throughout the movie. And I think it was because he was dragged into this about Lily cheating with Rob, and she used that to convince him to help her do all of this stuff. So he would basically set up the scenes and clean up that's how come Allison caught him in the classroom writing the stuff on the chalkboard, is because he was setting the scene after Melissa had brutally murdered them. So you're like, okay, that was good. That was a good twist. I like that. And then all of a sudden, while Allison's sitting there tied up, her dad's sitting there tied up, but her dad is unconscious. But he's sitting there beside her tied up, but he's unconscious. Then all of a sudden, you hear Melissa like say, I need some help. Come on up here. Well, you fucking know that it can't be Adam, right? Because he's fucking dead. So in walks fucking Mr. Jackson, the teacher. You never suspected that. Well, you do now, because I'm spoiling it all for you. But you should know that when you watch one of my videos. So Mr. Jackson like walks in, and I'm like, no fucking way, man. The teacher? Why? What? Right? So she ends up like, okay, I've done all of this killing, and my brother's been killed because of this crap, so you're going to do one. So she makes him like, you're going to kill Allison and finish off her dad. Now remember, he's still unconscious through all this. You're going to kill Allison. And so he gets down there with a knife, and is like, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it to be this way. But he ends up turning around and stabbing Melissa. Melissa goes like screaming out the door into the hallway because she's got a big giant knife wound in her. And he lets Allison go. Allison goes out there. They end up fighting, falling down the stairs, big boss fight scene. Allison ends up having to like kill her really bad. And I'm like sitting there this whole time going, I want that motherfucker to explain what the hell's going on. Why is he doing this? And why did he let Allison go? So he comes out, he comes walking down the stairs, and she's like, you're fucking crazy, And then he starts telling her that she knows why. She did a whole report on it. And she remembers, like, the rite of succession. So it turns out, we start seeing more flashbacks, and we also find out that Sheriff Miller and the mayor's assistant, Oliver, they were all in on this too. So it was like 5 people. 1 killer, that was Melissa, but 4 people were organizing, covering up, and helping it all take place. So it was like 5 people were involved in this conspiracy. Melissa was the psycho, though. She was the one doing all the brutal killing, which is interesting. It was a girl that was doing all this. But, well, that was happening in urban legend too, right? So, it's not like chicks can't do that. But, so this whole thing was done because if the 2 mayoral candidates are dead, so it's all about fucking politics. If the 2 mayoral candidates are dead, the longest member of the council gets to step in as interim mayor of the town. And he thinks the town is so disgusting and full of shit, and the people are all bad, and the town is all bad. He wants to be mayor so he can try to fix some of it. So that's all the stuff that he was explaining to Allison. And then he was basically like, tell on me or don't tell on me. But I'm right. So I'm listening there going, is she really going to like play along with this? Well, boom. We then are showed a year later, and we see Mayor Jackson walking down the road, and greeting people. And Oliver is his assistant, like he was with Claire. And we then see Allison is off in college, where she is the youngest class president ever elected in the college. And he walks up and starts giving a speech. And then her, at her college, is on the podium also giving a speech. And they are basically giving the same speech. So, she being a political major and him being all into politics, she let him get away with all of this. Because she didn't want to mess up her future career. And I was blown away by that. I didn't expect that the final girl would actually... Now, granted, he wasn't the physical killer, but there were 5 people who were completely and totally responsible for all of these very gory, very slasherific murders in this town. And there was lots of them. What is the body count? Like 20, 15, something like that. So, that Commissioner Rogers, that funny lady, she got tore up bad because she walked in when the 2 mayor candidates, when the mayor and the mayoral candidate, when they were in there getting murdered by the founder, she walked in on it. So she was taken out too in a bloody, gory fashion. So yeah, there's Mayor Jackson. He was directly involved in manipulating and causing all this to happen. And the victim of it actually ends up letting him get away with it and learning from it how to be a better politician. And now she's put it to use and is actually the president at the college. First, the youngest one ever elected. So, okay. So, what was different about this movie? It had all of the stuff that slashers have in it. The kills are fantastic in this movie. Varied and fantastic. The plot is like so much more complicated than a normal slasher. And this was the most important thing to me about this movie. And that was, I don't think I've ever seen this much character development in a slasher. I mean, about 15 minutes into the movie, I was actually sitting there going, I'm into this. But it's like, at the first 5 minutes, I felt like I was watching a slasher. And now for like 15 minutes, I felt like I'm watching like a very intense, engaging political drama, like House of Cards or something. So, as this all went on, the plot line, the twists, the hilarious comedy horror bits, because some of the dialogue is just fantastic and funny. The characters are funny. But what I didn't expect was them to develop this many of the characters. You really got to know Adam and his motivations. You really got to know Allison. You really got to know even Miller, the deputy, and Mr. Jackson. It was very refreshing, And then of course her dad, Melissa's dad, and the mayor even. You really got to know them as a fan. That's just not something, slashers are usually just a little bit a surface level, but these characters, you really got to know them. There was just an awful lot more character development, and the reason I think they had to do that was because of the plot. The plot is very serious. It's a joke. The plot is a joke on politics But like, you couldn't have that show House of Cards or shows like that, political shows. What's that other one? The West Wing. You couldn't really have those intense political courtroom dramas and stuff like that if you don't develop the characters. That's part of it. So for this slasher to be based around this kind of content, that content is not going to work unless you do what that genre demands, and that is, you got to know these people and their motivations. So I've not seen that very often, is to have a slasher, because this is 100% slasher. But it's like they took Friday the 13th and Scream, and then West Wing and House of Cards, and they had a baby. And I've not seen that before. That's two very strange genres to blend together and do it successfully. Well, I've never seen anybody do it at all. You know. So I was definitely very, very interested and very glued, and was like, I felt like really refreshed, you know. Like, this is something new, you know. Or it's not something new, it's something I like presented in a new way. And I must say that I really enjoyed seeing a more in-depth character development of some of these slasher victims. I just didn't expect that. So, yeah. If you... Now, I mean, I did say some rude stuff on the International Movie Database when I did my review, because, of course, there's a lot of people that hate it, and it's the exact kind of people that you would expect to hate it, and that is that they just... It's a slasher, right? Everything's supposed to be shallow. Everything's supposed to be shallow and meta and quick and an hour and 29 minutes. But this had a huge body count, fantastic kills, but it also took the time to develop the characters. But it had a plot, an actual plot, you know. It's not, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is one of my favorite movies ever, but I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is just, you know, kids are being assholes, they hit a guy on the road, his dad comes after them. End of story. You know, that's just the way it is. So a lot of people, and I think I said something pretty rude, like, and I meant it, but it was like, you know, if an episode of Goosebumps confuses you, and if you're actually surprised at the end of an episode of Scooby-Doo, if you want to be able to watch a slasher movie, and follow the plot while also doing your stupid shit on your mobile, which is what they expect of a slasher, you know, I'll only have to pay attention for a minute to know the plot, then I can just watch the cool kills. This movie you have to actually pay attention to, so I would avoid it. In other words, if you got an IQ of 12, I would avoid this movie. Because, or just watch the kill count, or whatever you weird people do. Whatever those weird people do that don't really like to pay attention to a movie. But, yeah. If you like an intelligent movie and want to see something new with a slasher, where it's got all the slasher elements, but it also adds a bunch of character development, then yeah, you should watch this movie. If you just want a slasher that's quick and you can follow the plot while also playing a game on your stupid mobile phone, you probably won't like this. So there you go. This is Founders Day, or that was Founders Day. Very cool. Loved it. Whatever I gave it, 8 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed this new slant on slasher. I liked the laughs. I liked the dialogue. The kills, like, ooh, god dang, really? So I enjoyed it. And I think that serious movie collectors will probably enjoy it. Serious horror fans would enjoy it. mainstream. I just go to the movies every once in a while to see a quick slasher. Probably wouldn't. I told you that. So, love you, miss you, bye. Let me know if you've seen this. Let me know what you think about it. If not, I don't know. I think you should give it a shot. And I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember and never forget, you're a very, very special person. And I will see you in the next. Bye.